so today we are going to be doing a brake light mod. I saw a lot of these videos on YouTube, or these pictures should I say on YouTube, where people are adding extra brake lights because the stock brake lights sit pretty low to follow in with DOT regulations. One of the downsides is that when you're a big rig and you're towing, is people behind you can't see you slowing down, and you want to try and give everybody, especially say you're going down a hill and you got an F350 behind you, but there's an 18-wheeler behind him who's trying to slow themselves down. We want to make sure that we're actually able to be seen by people beyond just the first car or first vehicle. And so what I did is I ordered these LED brake light sets. They had pretty good reviews. I'll post the exact name of the product down in the link below. But I got 8 of these. I don't know if I'm going to use all 8, but that's what we're doing today. We're going to install these. And so let's get started.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is we have our toy hauler back ramp down / deck down. And we're going to talk about where we're going to run these. So I am on the passenger side of the trailer, and you'll notice that there is a cutout here. We also have an access panel right here. It's just these 4 screws that we have to remove. And if we come on up, we have another access panel. And what this is this panel, this whole square corner of the RV is actually holding the helper spring, or the counterbalance spring that is used for when you raise and lower your tailgate. Same thing on the driver's side as well. But so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually measure where I want my lights. I need to use a good starting point. So for me, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to put my tape measure right down here, and then I'm going to measure all the way up to the top of the rig, or of that where that square tube is. I'm going to see what the best placement is for 4 lights. I may go with less, but that's going to be the first thing I do. So I just did a quick measurement of this space right here. It's actually 8 feet tall. And so now I'm trying to do some math, and I'm going to do some placement with some painter's tape, and you're going to see that. As you can see, I placed blue painter's tape where I think I want to place all these things. I'll sort of show you and walk you through my process with this. And so I know that the whole thing is 96 inches tall for the opening. And so what I did is I took my LED light, my one LED light I have out so far, and I placed it right basically as close to the bottom as I thought I could get safely with screwing and not messing up anything. And then I measured 8 inches up, and I'm going to start again. And the other thing that I was paying attention to while I was doing this, having the wires on the outside right now to see, is make sure I had access. So in this case, I have access to this access hatch. Then down here, I have access to the wires up through here before I drill down and through. And it continues on all the way up. So like even right here, with this in place, I have access to the wires here at this hatch. And this top one is going to be the only one that's a challenge. And so what I'll probably do is when I start to run my wires, I'll thread the wires, all of the wires, through the hole that I'm going to drill up here. And then I'll, like these will be pre-wired in to the line. And then we'll just start linking them in down below. But, so got that all matched up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start by working actually at the bottom and trying to see where we can get access. If you look down, so going into this hole, as you look down, and if I can get my camera in there, down in that hole, we're going to try and put our screw hole down in here. So we'll see how that works out here in a second. To do that, we're going to take this side panel off, and we're going to, I bought some black caulk to replace the caulk. It's already going bad even after a few months anyway, so can't hurt. So let's see what we're going to do. Next thing we're going to do, sorry, I got to try and make it where you can see it with the sun.
is we have this panel, or this cover that covers the end cap and the curve down and around by the original brake lights. We're going to take off 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. It is worth mentioning that if you can use the square bit, makes things go a lot more smooth. And actually, before I start this, I was talking about the caulk or the sealant that they used. It's going bad. I'm gonna see if I can get a shot of this. I don't know if you can see that, but it just pulls right up. Maybe on this side a little bit, but not even sealed. Just sort of sitting there. Not a big deal. Something we're gonna fix. Actually, that one's been replaced. Got to use a regular bit. Look how rusty that is compared to from Grand Designs. When you go to take this off, if yours is caulked better than mine, you may not have this luck, but slow and steady. Not looking to break anything. Take it apart right like that. You can see where this beam ends and this larger metal beam ends. But if you go up underneath, let me get my flashlight. If you go up underneath, you can see that we're gonna come out right up there where that hole is. Right up there is our goal, because it's just an outer, it's not an actual like square beam like this one. And so that's what we're going to do, is we're going to drill the hole for that. Start with drilling a smaller hole, then work our way up, and eventually get straight in. And so up there in the corner, you can see where I've sort of just etched it with a screwdriver bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to work our way up. We're going to start with a very small drill bit, and basically just keep increasing our size. I'm not able to hold the camera while I do this. Just big thing is go slow and go steady. So we're going to try and get as close to that corner, well, not as close, but a little bit off or a little bit in from the corner, so that when we drill this final hole, we can just pull the wires straight down through, and then we can wire them into the existing tail lights. So we got the hole drilled. Had to do some adjusting. I originally thought I could drill in at an angle right here, but I didn't want to mess with the integrity of this corner at all. And so I ended up not doing that. And then, if we get up underneath, I ran into an issue where I couldn't get my drill bit up there. And the solution ended up being is this bolt, or this screw. Took this out. There was some foam, some great stuff foam right there. I just ripped it off because it's, it's spray foam. You can buy it for $3. And then what I did is I lifted the wires up and over, because there's a lot of extra wire here, which is really nice for this. And then I just simply pushed this out a little bit while I drilled, which allowed me to get my drill straight up and down. I got right there in the corner where I wanted to go. And as you can see, my grab tool goes up and all the way in, and we can and I confirmed that it was in there because I could see it from the access point on the top side. So for those that are hinky about drilling into the side of your rig or just anywhere where there's wood, it was super simple. I took off the screws on the side, took off one more screw right here, pop this out, some spray foam, great stuff. I'm going to go and replace that. I'll get that sprayed on in the next couple of days. And now we have access to all of our wires. And so, easy day. Well, now we're getting ready to drill the holes for the actual LED lights. The LED lights, you got to drill a hole for this plug assembly to go in. For the ones that I bought, there may be some better ones out there, but this is what I have and it's what I'm going to go with.
And then, so looking at it, it's actually a 1/2 inch drill bit. And so when we go to do this, we're going to do our dry fit backwards like we normally do. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some strip of painter's tape. I'm going to do my dry fit. And then I'm going to put the painter's tape as straight as possible right beside it. It goes straight in and over. And then at that point, I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to mark it where I want it to go. So in this case, I'm going to mark it right about here. And then I'll measure in from the edge and get my hole. So what I just did is I don't have a fancy term for it, but basically I'm eyeballing. If I look at this right here, coming from the edge, if I line this thing up on the edge, from the edge of this line, I need to go in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this. So it is 1.5 across. So we're going to go 0.75 inches in from the line. So I might make some people crazy with how I'm measuring because I don't like using the ends because I like to be able to lay it flat. But we're going to go 0.75 inches in. Make our little line right there. And if we can do this again, we're going to do it one more time. We're going to make our little line right here. And so I know that roughly right about there is my drill point. I don't know how easy or how well you can see that, but got my drill point right there. And we're going to start with a small bit, make sure we get a good grab in the right spot, and then work our way up. If you had a metal punch, now would be a really good time to use a metal punch. So at that point now you can remove your tape. We're not going to try and add any more chaos into the inside of the trailer. And we can start to work our way up. Once you have your initial hole, you can sort of jump a little faster than what you would think, so jumping up to a pretty decent sized hole next. Highly encourage wearing eye protection if you're one of those people that has to get really close to whatever it is you're working with. I've just learned over the years to keep my face away from it. And then when we actually go to do this, we'll take our grab tool, reach down and grab these wires and pull them up and go for a quick dry fit. I have a feeling it's going to be a little snug initially. Yeah, we're actually going to have to round it out just a little bit for this. But this will sit in flush. Let's see what we can do to get it that way. And now, as you can see, we got our first LED light on. I'm not sure if it's straight, but we haven't screwed it in yet, so we have the wiggle room that we need to make sure that it's totally straight and flush. Hey, good morning, everybody. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk through how we figure out what our wiring is going to be. So real quick, just hook the truck up just real fast to the trailer, and then I turn the lights on. I also put a cinder block on the brake. And then also, sorry, I also got my flashers going. So as you can see, we got our flashers going, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go underneath here with our test light. So if you don't know what this is, it's just a quick test light. We're gonna just ground it to a bolt, and then we can just probe. Now, how people choose to probe, I found where I'm going to cut my wires, and so I just use my little probe to poke a hole in. This is part of the wiring harness, and we're going to take that probe that we just grounded, and if you know where you're going to cut wires, since there's a big loop here, I know I'm going to end up cutting around here. You just basically take this probe, if you can. Now these are made with waterproof connections, so I'm not sure how easy it would be to probe into those, but you can probe in that way, or this thing is very, very sharp. And what we're going to do is we're going to look and we're going to probe in, and we're going to see if anything lights up. So you can see here, my red wire is my blinker / hazards. We're going to look at the white wire. So white wire is what's looking like a ground, and then we'll check our green wire. Green wire is our solid power wire, and so now we know what we have to do to wire it in. So red blink, white ground or neutral, and then green's just a solid power. Same thing we did yesterday. Lined it up and then measured 3/4 of an inch in, because they are 1.5 inches wide. Today we're going to do something different. We're going to start with a regular drill bit, and then we're going to actually upgrade to using a step bit. Now these things are a little pricey, about $45, but makes for very clean holes. And found that these holes on this particular light are slightly bigger than a 1/2 inch, and that's all I had. I figured this is a much more controlled and easy approach, which is what we're going to do. Then we can do a quick test fit. See if we have to go up one more size or not. Nope, just popped right in. So another one bites the dust. I guess trick of the trade for this is, as you can see, maybe not, but this spring is in the center of this beam. And so when you go to drill this hole and this hole, the spring's actually in the way. And the way I found the best way is to reach in and put your thumb right here and just pull. And it'll keep it out of the way so that you can drill your hole and not cause any damage to your springs, because you definitely don't want to do that. So the next thing we're going to be doing is running the wires. But before we can actually physically run the wires, what we're going to do is we're going to braid these together. So what I did is I went to the local Ace hardware store, just bought, I think, 18 feet of, I think it's 16 or 18 gauge wire. And what you do is you start by getting a little tip started, just wound up like that. And then let me show you how we wind these so you don't have to wind it by hand. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all this, put the end of it in your drill bit, or in your screw gun, and just shove it on in there. And then what we're going to do is just simply hold. And you start to form your own braided wire. It's going to want to bend on itself while it goes. Not a huge deal. Big thing is stretching these out once you get enough going to where it can hold.
stretch it out, and we're going to get the whole wire braided in. If you're like me and you're doing this on your own, you remember I started it here, started braiding the wire, and started getting gunked up. So what I ended up doing is I strung the wires all the way out to and tied them to the end of the ladder. And then what you're going to do, let me set this down, is as you tighten this, as you screw in, you're just going to have to start slowly but slowly walking a little bit closer. Be ready to walk a little bit closer as it tightens up, which I didn't even have to walk forward. So that's how you do that. So next up is we're going to take some rope and we're going to fish it through the top holes on each side and pull it all the way down and through, and then we'll start splicing and soldering these line connections and heat shrink tubing them if the heat shrink that I have is still good, and if not, we'll figure it out from there. Of note, you can use a hanger, or if you have an electrical fish tape, that would work great. In my case, I have my little screw grabber that has the claw that comes out at the end, and that's what I'm going to be using. So getting the wires through the hole that we drilled up underneath this was actually kind of a challenge. So I want to show you guys how I did it. I struggled with this for a little bit. So basically what I did is I have paracord. If you don't know what that is, it's basically 5 little white strands inside of this outer casing of cord. And so what I ended up doing is I pulled the strands out from the inside of this. They're actually, they look like this. But so what I did is I pulled the strands out, and then I trimmed 2 of the cords up about an inch or so, and then I slid this all the way up to where it's seated up against those, and I kind of pulled them up and over like that. So you can see it's like slides up and down. And then I taped it, and then I very slowly worked the cord through. That worked out really, really well. At first I tried using my grabber to grab it. Didn't need it as much as I thought. Couldn't pull these through. It kept bending the wires and they'd get caught like trying to pull too much through the hole. And so this worked out really well. So, helpful tip. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to strip these wires so we can link them in with these. I'm just going to match the color code, and then I'm going to, hopefully the same color scheme, you know, white, neutral, red, hot with the blinker, and then black with the last wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these down to right about here, because I don't want all of this flapping around next to that spring. Don't want it to rip or tear out. So I'm going to cut this, give me some wiggle room if I need to adjust anything down the road, and then solder them together. So I'm not going to be able to record this next part, so I wanted to show people what I'm doing. I'm just using 2 extra pieces of cord of wire, and so basically what we're going to end up doing is we're going to be enmeshing the 2 ends together. Or some people, depending on who you talk to, I'm not an electrician. I don't claim to be. I've seen people do it where they take them and they twist them together and then lay them flat and solder it like that. I mean, there's not a right or, oh, I'm sure there is a right or a wrong way, but ultimately, as long as you have the connection, you should be okay. So in my case, I'm going to twist the, I'm going to combine these in a mesh-like pattern, and then melt my solder on. I'm sure there's a better way. If you know it, please don't judge too hard. But basically, and then we're just going to melt the solder down to where it combines and it sticks. And it'll look cleaner than that when I'm doing it, but just a quick little video showing you sort of what I'm doing. And then at that point, we have a nice tight seal. The heat shrink tubing I bought is too big, so if this were simulating electrical tape, what we would then do is we would just start at our top and work our way down with electrical tape. This is painter's tape. Please don't use painter's tape when you go to secure this electrical connection, but we would just wrap it down nice and tight. An electrical tape would look better, but that's what we would end up with. And we have a really strong connection, which is exactly what we're going for, because I don't want to go back in there after these things again after doing this. So got the first one wired in, wires are tucked in and up, and then this next part is a little bit probably going to be controversial for some people, because I'm choosing to make it to where I can pull the wires out and have access to them through this panel. Other people say, hey, pull it tight. I don't know what the right answer is. I'm thinking about doing is pulling all these up and wrapping them and taping them, and then what I plan to do is caulk it to the side so I can just pop it off if I ever need it. So, but this is 2 of 4. Like I said, this one's on. It's just I just screwed it in real quick. At some point I'm going to come back around and do black caulk around the edges and probably around the center hole underneath. Alright, so now we're back under the trailer. We got the wires ran. You can see got a lot of extra. So what I did is I just did a quick splice of the 3, and then I found with my test light the 3 wires that go to the brake light system, as you can see up here. Cut them, and I went ahead and pre-stripped them. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to wire them in. In this case, looking brown goes to red, so I'm going to trust that the aftermarket red goes to this off-color brown, and then white to white, and then green to black. And so we're going to give that a shot. Here we are with our moment of truth. Ain't that right, buddy? That's phenomenal looking. Oh, on to the next side, and then we'll call it a day. So we got everything finished, wired together, and the overall end or output that I thought I was going to get is so much better. Definitely worth the time that it took today. Here, take a look.